Welcome students again to our online lessons, coming to you from St. Charles College, Onitsha in Anambra State. This is from Agricultural Science Department and the topic is fishery. We are continuing from where we stopped the other time on fishery. This is for JS2 classes and I'm still your teacher, Mrs. Idemili. Now, by the end of this lesson, students, you are going to answer these questions for me. Number 1, explain the meaning of fish processing and preservation. Number 2, list at least 5 methods of preserving fishes and briefly explain them. Number 3, identify any 3 conditions necessary for siting a fish pond. Number 4, state 5 steps in maintaining the fish pond. And number 5, list any 3 fishery regulations. Now let's get on with this lesson. Fish processing. Agricultural products are mostly perishable products that need to be processed and preserved immediately after harvesting in order to minimize wastage due to spoilage. So immediately it is harvested, fish is processed to avoid damage, while fish processing is that process that is associated with preparing the fish for the actual preservation. Fish processing may take any of these forms: the removal of scales from the body, the removal of the gills from the head, and then the fins, bleeding of the fish by cutting off the head, empty the guts, contents, and everything therein, then washing the fish with clean water. After processing of fish, preservation follows. And preservation is that process of keeping fish in good condition till it gets to the final consumer. Now, methods of fish preservation. Fish preservation could follow any of these ways. 1, sun drying. This is a process of removing as much water as possible from the fish to reduce spoilage by microorganisms. This can be achieved by spreading out the fish under the sun on locally made wooden trays or wire gauze. Also, an electric dryer can be used for this purpose where there is electricity supply. The second one is smoking. This process involves suspending the fish over fire to dry. This is done in the traditional mud smokehouse or kiln. This is a common method of preserving fish by the local fishermen, and it involves exposing the fish to heat and smoke. Smoked fish has a unique taste that is loved by the local people, and they last for a very long time. The third one is by salting. Salting involves rubbing salt all over the body of the fish. Salt can be placed inside the fish through the gills, the gut, and the mouth. Salting is done to help prevent the activities of the microorganisms that cause spoilage and to improve the taste of the fish. For complete and easy coverage, the entire fish can be soaked in salt water. Salt fish can then be dried under the sun or by other mechanical means. Number 4 is freezing or refrigeration. This process of freezing in a temperature below 0 degrees centigrade helps to keep microorganisms that cause decay inactive and avoid fish spoilage. Deep freezers, cold rooms, and refrigerators can be used for this purpose. In large-scale fishing, where trawler nets are fixed on trawler boats for offshore fishing, their catch are usually stored in deep freezing condition until they come offshore. Freezing is the best method of fish preservation as the fish retains its original nature for a very long time. Then the fifth method of fish preservation is canning. Fish canning is a process whereby fish is placed in cans with special oils or pests under very strict hygienic conditions. Fish preserved in this way can last for a very long time without spoilage, as air and spoilage organisms are excluded from the can. The only advantage of this method is that if strict hygiene condition is not observed during canning, the fish may become poisonous for human consumption. Another method of fish preservation is conversion of fish into fish meal. Fish not suitable for human consumption and parts of fishes that are usually discarded during processing, like fins, scales, the head, the intestines, are usually dried and ground into powder. And this is used in making fish meal for feeding livestock. Fish is rich in proteins and other nutrients that are required by the livestock for good growth and development. Then fish farming. Remember in our last lesson, we talked about fish farming, or what we call fish culture or aquaculture. This is the raising of fish and other aquatic organisms in man-made water reservoirs like the pond. Conditions necessary for siting the fish pond. Before you site a fish pond, there are some conditions that must be available if that fish farming must be successful. Number one, water availability. The fish pond should be located near a good source of water. The water should have appropriate temperature with enough dissolved oxygen. Another is the soil type. Fish ponds should be sited where there is a type of soil that has good water retentive capacity in order to reduce leakage. The soil type that should be more of clay particles than of sand particles. Then the topography of that place. The pond should be sited on a flat, undulating land. This is to avoid flood problems arising in the pond. And rainwater may flow into the pond, washing away the fishes if the land is not level enough. Then availability of fingerlings. Fingerlings of fast-growing species should not be too far to be obtained by the farmer. The fish species should be able to adapt easily to the local conditions of that place. Number 5, labor availability. Availability of cheap labor is important to reduce the cost of production. If the labor within that locality is very high, then the cost of production will be high, which will reduce the farmer's profit. Another one is availability of fish feed. Another important factor necessary for siting the fish pond is the availability of high-quality fish feed. Good feeding is very important for optimal production in fish farming, and also to cut down on production cost. Inputs for fish production should be within easy access of the farmer. Another factor to be considered is nearness to the market. Fish is a highly perishable product and should be sold off immediately after harvesting. So a ready market for disposing of the fish should not be too far from the fish farm. Maintenance of the fish pond. Now the farmer has finished establishing the fish pond. There are some maintenance practices that should be carried out regularly in order to make sure that the fishes grow very well. The first one is supplementary feeding. Artificial feeding is very important in fish farming if the business is going to be very successful. So things like fish meal, groundnut cake, and palm kernel cake should be used to supplement their feeding. Another is weeding. Water weeds sometimes cover the surface of the water, thereby reducing the oxygen content of the water. So these water plants should be periodically removed to make room for atmospheric oxygen to dissolve into the fish pond. Another one is the silting. Too much silt in the pond may lead to the pollution of the pond water. So there is the need for periodic removal of silt deposits at the bottom of the pond to improve light penetration and visibility, and also to allow more oxygen from the atmosphere to seep into the pond. Another is disease control. The control of disease in the pond is also very necessary for good results. It can be achieved through the following. 1, good sanitation in the pond, proper aeration, that is, allowing enough atmospheric oxygen to dissolve into the pond water, and then good feeding to boost their immune system. When these things are achieved, the disease spread will be reduced to a barest minimum. Then number 6, pond fertilization. This is the addition of artificial fertilizers or organic manure like poultry droppings in the pond in order to encourage the growth of small organisms like planktons that are eaten by the fishes. Planktons are the natural food for the fishes in water. They grow on their own inside the fish pond. So the growth of plankton is very important so that the fishes can be feeding on them in the absence of artificial feeds. The growth of plankton in the fish pond is highly encouraged so that the fishes will not be left without food when there is no artificial feed for them. Another method of maintaining the fish pond is the stocking rate. This is the number of fishes species in a given area. The best stocking rate is the polyculture, whereby fishes of different species are allowed to stay in the same pond and they require different feed requirements. This is in a way that some of them will be feeding from the bottom of the pond, while some will be feeding from the top of the pond. The number 8 is sorting. This is the separation of fishes according to their various sizes. This should be done periodically as the fishes mature. Sorting helps to reduce the incidence of cannibalism and also helps during fish harvesting, as only the matured fishes are harvested, while the young ones are allowed to continue growing. Risk factors in fish farming. During fish farming, there are some factors that pose risk in fish farming, and some of those factors are drought. This is the lack of water for changing the water in the pond at the right time. If there is any delay in the change of water, the fishes may be stressed, leading to low productivity, thereby causing loss of resources for the farmer. Then 2, flooding. Excessive water moving from the soil surface may enter into the pond after rainfall, and the fishes will swim away without water, causing losses for the farmer. Then theft, or what we call poaching. People tend to steal matured fishes from the farm if it is not well secured, causing great loss to the farmer. So fishermen or farmers should endeavor to secure their fish farms very well. Another risk factor in fish farming is pollution. Dumping of waste such as household waste, industrial waste, agricultural waste, petroleum waste, and animal waste and other waste into the rivers or ponds can endanger the life of these fishes. And once the life of the fishes are endangered, it may cause a lot of waste and losses to the farmer. Other risk factors in fish farming is excessive addition of fertilizer into the pond to encourage the growth of planktons, causing pollution in the pond. So during addition of fertilizers in the pond, it should be done with caution so that there will be no problem of excessive addition. Then another one is the growth of water plants on the surface of the fish pond water, which prevents oxygen from getting into the water, thereby endangering the lives of the fishes. Another is overstocking of the fish pond with fishes. This can reduce the amount of oxygen that goes into the pond. It also limits the movement of fishes in the water. This can lead even to cannibalism, that is, fishes attacking themselves. Then the use of poisonous chemical is another risk factor during fishing. Remember when we are talking about fish farming, we talked about bad methods of catching fishes. Some fishermen use poisonous chemicals during fishing. It is one of the risk factors we face during fish farming, and this should be discussed. Other risk factors in fish farming is diseases. The spread of diseases, which is usually controlled by antibiotics, may lead to contamination of the pond water, and this can be very harmful to the fishes. Then other risk factors include high fish mortality, impact of biodiversity, fake inputs like fish feed, drugs, hormones influences the growth of fishes. Presence of predators like the snakes, the hawk, and other dangerous animals, even the cats. All these endanger the lives of the fishes in the pond. Then market-related risk, and then tilapia takeover. These are all risk factors in fish farming. Then we go to regulations in fishery, what we call fishery regulations. There are some regulations guiding the activities of man towards the exploitation of water resources to avoid harming the aquatic organisms. These regulations include: 1. Ban on fishing activities during the rainy season, which is the breeding season for the fishes. The fishes should be allowed to breed in peace. Number 2, quota catch. This regulates the number of fishes that a fisherman has the right of catching at a particular time. Then restrictions on the time of the year when fishing is to be carried out. This type of restrictions made it that fishermen do not go to the rivers to fish at some time in the year in order to allow the fishes to breed, grow, and then fill the water up. So another one is regulation on the fishing method for those that will harvest matured fishes while the young ones are protected. The fishing method that is the best one is the one that will bring out only the matured fishes while the young ones are allowed to continue growing in order to fill the water up again. Then the last is issuing permits to a limited number of fishermen at the same time. Not all fishermen will be allowed to go into the open water to fish in order to make sure that all the fishes there are not removed at the same time. We have come to the end of today's lesson, but before we end it finally, let's look at the major points that we discussed about today. We talked about fish processing and preservation. And remember, we said fish processing are those methods that we use to prepare the fishes for preserving them finally. We talked about removing the guts, removing the scales, bleeding the fish by cutting off the head, then washing in clean water. Then preservation are those methods through which we keep those fishes in good condition till they get to the hands of the final consumer. We talked about the methods of preservation as salting, sun drying, canning, refrigeration, which we say is the best process because it preserves the fish in its natural condition for a very long time. We talked about even smoking, which is the method very, very common with the peasant fishermen and which has a very wonderful taste when used in cooking. Now, we also talked about fish regulations. Those means that are used to checkmate the activities of the fishermen in exploiting the aquatic organisms. We also talked about establishment and management of the fish pond. We talked about conditions necessary for siting the fish pond. We talked about the topography, the source of water, the availability of the fish feed, the availability of good fingerlings of very good species. These are things that we have discussed about. Now, students, answer the following questions. 1. Explain the meaning of fish processing and fish preservation. 2. List at least 5 methods of preserving fish and explain them briefly. 3. Identify any 3 conditions necessary for siting the fish pond. 4. Explain 5 steps in maintaining the fish pond. And last, list any 3 fishery regulations. Now, you can submit your answers to me through my WhatsApp contact, which is 0806 983 2881. 0806 983 2881. So it is bye for now till we come your way again.